Alright, welcome back. It still amazes me how many startups and blogs I see serving JavaScript that hasn't been minified. If you don't minify and mangle your JavaScript, you're literally sending your IP across the series of tubes and into the laps of your competitors. In this episode, we're going to discuss what to use to obfuscate and otherwise ready your code for production, while making it smaller in the meantime. We're going to start where we left off in the last episode, but if you need to catch up, check out prod.js2. So let's show what minifying and mangling can do. There are three parts to optimizing any JavaScript bundle. The first is concatenation, whereby we join multiple files together. Now Webpack already does this, and you can see it in the Webpack dev. We're asking it to join all three of these files together as one file called main bundle. Next we have minification. Let's get into that a little deeper now. Let's start by npm installing Babel Minify. Now to illustrate, I'm going to write out a piece of contrived code that will show what's possible when we minify. Follow along if you'd like, but this isn't part of the actual finished product. It's useful in illustrating what the minifier can and can't do. Alright, now in the terminal, let's run minify source main.js with the D flag, say dist. Now inside of our main.js in dist, we can see what's happened. In the starting file, we have a global variable which we set to true. In the finished file, true is set to not 0, which is a shorthand for true. Something is also a global variable, so that's left alone as well. But it's set as a function, and the argument inside that function is compressed to just a. The argument is then set to our long variable name. But in the final file, Minify doesn't care about that, because we're using that variable as the argument for the next function. It passes a right along to the next function. It then returns the long variable times the long variable as a multiplied by a, plus the global. And all of that is a function inside the console log. So you can see that it's doing a bunch of very smart optimizations based on its knowledge of JavaScript. It's using less naming of variables, but the final code is very much the same functionality as the original code. I wanted to show you this, that Minify isn't just removing white space like it's doing up here in these requires. It's changing variable names, but it's only doing those within a function scope. When it's the global scope, it leaves the variable names as is. Now that's a way to make sure that anything Minify does is not going to break the original code. When coding, putting things inside function scope are going to make them smaller, while defining variables in the global scope will keep them the same size. Alright, so that was Minify. Now in order to use that within your final production build, we're going to add that to Webpack prod. Let's install Babel Minify Webpack plugin. Now let's grab that. Now down in plugins, let's simply add new Minify plugin. Now if we run npm run build, we get a main bundle that's only 816 bytes. Not bad. It includes everything that Webpack needs to load all its files in a very small amount of space. You can see how much optimization is being done with all of these separate function variables. being A, B, and C. Luckily, the JavaScript interpreter understands what's going on. And if you send this over the wire, reverse engineering this code is going to be pretty difficult for your competitors. So that's using Babel to minify and mangle your code. But what about Uglify.js? Uglify is the standard way that JavaScript has been mangled for production for many years. The reason I did the Babel one first is to show you that Babel does very much the same work as Uglify. Babel picks your code apart, understands it, and then optimizes it using the Babel compiler. Uglify does the same thing using its own code separate from Babel. So let's show the difference between Uglify and Babel. Let's npm install Uglify.js Webpack plugin. Now inside our plugins in the Webpack prod, let's comment this one out and add new Uglify.js plugin. Finally, let's pull that in. All right, let's rerun this. So you can see our main bundle.js is 811 bytes now. Now 5 bytes is kind of a whoop-de-doo number. But I wanted to show you that Babel and Uglify are in a bit of a war over who can create the smallest bundles. Uglify is the big player on the scene. It's standard in most JavaScript development workflows. But Babel is up and coming. Both are actively worked on, and I encourage you to use both and to check which is optimizing your production bundle the best. Alright, in this episode, I wanted to show you that tools like Uglify and Babel are using to reduce code size. Variable mangling, white space removal, and code replacement are part of that. If you need to catch up, the finished code can be found at git checkout prod-js2-final. Next, there's one final point I want to make about optimization, and that's actual compression. Compression is another subject that can get weedy pretty quickly, but it's a very important field in computer science. We'll stick to what's relevant for our purposes to make our file sizes even smaller. See you there.